Hello there and welcome to Art and Self. I am Cindy Ingram, your host and the founder of Art Class Curator, the Curated Connections Library, and the Art Connection Circle. In this podcast, we experience the range and depth of what it means to be human, seen through our connections and conversations about intriguing works of art. These art conversations are here to show you that art is here for you as a catalyst, a challenger, a coach, and a comfort. If you love listening to these insightful conversations and you want to be a part of them, I would love to welcome you into the Art Connection Circle. You can get more information at artandself.com/circle, or just click the link in the show notes. Hello and happy May. Welcome back to the podcast. And before we get into today's podcast art conversation with Amanda Koonlaba, I want to remind you that the doors for the Art Connection Circle are now open, and we have actually 2 cohorts of the program running this summer. Since I know so many of you are teachers and we have different schedules, some people teach into June, some people end in May, some people start back late. We have a lot of different schedules. I have 1 cohort running June and July and 1 cohort running July and August. And I would love to welcome you into this really special program. You can get all the information over at artandself.com/circle. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out, Cindy at artandself.com, or you can send me a DM on Facebook or on Instagram, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you about the program and if you would be a great fit for it. I absolutely love this program. I cannot talk about it enough. I just love it so much, and it's just such a special experience, and I would love to have you on it. All right, so let's get into today's interview with our guest. We have Amanda Koonlaba from Party in the Art Room, and here we go. Oh, and a warning. We say the word boobs like 1,000 times. Or no, not boobs, just boob. Because the artwork has 1 boob hanging out. So if you have, little ears around and you don't want them to hear you, people constantly mentioning a boob, you might want to put in your headphones. But it's nothing explicit. It's just a part of the artwork. So that's it. Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Art and Self podcast. I am so excited to welcome Amanda Koonlaba to the podcast. Hello, Amanda.
Hi, Cindy.
So excited to have you. I don't think you've ever been on the podcast, have you?
I haven't.
I feel like we did an interview for Call to Art many years ago, and that to me in my head, that was like the podcast, but awesome. So before we get started, can you introduce yourselves for our listeners?
Yes, I'm Amanda Koonlaba, and I am Party in the Art Room. So partyintheartroom.com was a blog that I started over a decade ago, and I was an art teacher in a classroom when I started it, and I was so scared of starting a blog that I didn't even put my name on it. And so now here we are, and I'm doing it full time. So that's my life.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, thank you.
Living the dream, creating your own life, your own job. You are actually, since I restarted the podcast with this new format back in November, I think you're my first art teacher.
Really?
In this new format. Well, Kate last week is a professor and artist, but we mainly talked about her as an artist. So I think you're my first art teacher. So
I love that you're talking to people who don't eat, sleep, and breathe art education all the time.
Yeah, and it shows people that they anybody can do this type of work or this type of discussion. So, all right. So what I'm going to do is I picked 4 artworks that I thought that you might enjoy knowing a little bit about you, and I will show you them. Don't spend too much time thinking about the titles because, I don't like to spend a lot of time with the titles, but I am going to be telling the titles. So for those of everybody listening can know what we're looking at. And then for those of you listening, if this is your first episode, all of the images that we are going to talk about today are on the show notes at artandself.com. And also, if you are watching on Facebook or on YouTube, that's where you'll be able to see the image as well. Not a video of us, unfortunately, but you will be able to see the picture. All right, so here is your choice number 1. This one is Mountain Group by Dana Schutz, or maybe it's Schutz. I actually don't know how to pronounce her name. And then our second choice is One Woman Show by Celeste Rapone. And then we have an artwork that I don't know the title, but it's by Swoon. And I always get stuff from her Instagram, and she sometimes has titles, but often doesn't. But I will, again, you can see this on the show notes. And then the last one is Front Yard at Sunset by Natalie Wadlington.
Okay.
I'm calling you.
The second one.
The second one.
Yeah.
Awesome. I had a feeling I was going to, if I had to guess, that would have been it. Okay, cool. So that is One Woman Show by Celeste Rapone. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. And you can still see it?
I can.
Okay, sweet. All right, so before we start, we'll describe it and everything for our listeners. But tell me first, like, what drew you to it? What made you want to choose this one?
Honestly, her body part hanging out over there caught my attention. And I have 3 kids, and it just drew me to it because you never know what, like, at home as a mom, you just don't know. So, and then that pop of pink down in the bottom got me.
Yeah.
It's kind of a good contrast there.
Sweet. So the boob hanging out and then the colors of it. All right. So let's describe it. So I'm going to let you describe it first. And then if I see anything that you missed, I'll kind of add in.
Okay. It's very golden, yellow, and beige. Like, that's the primary palette. But there are pops of color, especially toward, like, right-hand side as I'm looking at it. It's framed on each side by, like, a really tall cactus and a lamp. And the lamp is shining light and illuminating part of her body and part of the picture, but there's obvious shadows in there. Like, there's a real harsh angular line where the light is. And there's a lot of angles in this one. There's angles in the accordion. She has on high top sneakers with rainbow shoelaces. She's standing in front of, like, a full length mirror, but you can see the back of the mirror, so you can't see exactly how she sees herself in there. She's kneeling on a green stool. There's a composition notebook and what looks like a pen back there. She's got some bracelets, animal prints on her dress. There's a wood grain floor, a dream catcher's hanging from the lamp, and she's got her head tilted very far over to the side. She's got butterfly clips and a bun.
Yeah. And she's playing 2 musical instruments. One of them is an accordion, and both of her hands are on the accordion. And then with her foot, she's got, like, a tambourine. She's playing the tambourine with her foot. But yeah, overall, it's like kind of an abstract version of a woman, and she's filled the whole canvas. I mean, everything is very, like, she takes up most of the thing, and then those other things are, all framing around her.
There's an incense burner in the bottom too that kind of part of that frame around. And it took me a second to realize what that was.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what that was either. I was kind of glancing at it, and I was like, is that a worm? But yes, you're right. It's an incense burner.
It's part of the frame.
Awesome. Okay. So I think we got a pretty good description of it. Again, every time I do this, I'm like, there's no way we can adequately describe exactly what this looks like. I always wonder what people actually imagine in their head when they're hearing the descriptions if they haven't seen the image. But go look at the image so that you know what we're talking about, and you'll see how cool it is. All right. So what do you want to talk about first? What's really drawing your attention?
Right now, what's drawing my attention is that looks like somebody tried to pull the tag off the back of the mirror.
Yes.
It ripped.
I noticed that too, and I love that detail. It's so, like, real, you know?
Yeah. It's I'm like, I identify with that because it's not perfect. You know, it's not completely removed. It's not torn in a perfect manner. It's not straight either. It's not lined up like somebody just slapped a price tag on the back and somebody just ripped it off and didn't get all of it.
Yep.
I'm like, it also reminds me of how I halfway finish almost everything. Like, I can't see anything through to the end in one setting.
Yeah.
Like, I might come, like, at my house, I might tell myself I'm going to come back for the rest of that later. And whether I do or not, you know, but that's exactly how that would work at my house or just in my life. That's how I would do it.
Yeah, me too. Like, everything that has a tag like that I ripped off and it didn't come off clean, I'm not gonna take my time. And it's like a running joke with my mom, especially she comes to my house and sees that like my chairs, my like armchairs in my living room, you can see the tags hanging from the bottom. Like I never like cut the tags off.
Oh,
And then
neat.
there was this artwork in my room for the longest time that I like got from Wayfair or somewhere, and like the tag was still on it, and it drove my daughter crazy. So I finally did cut it, but it was like a good year before I finally like cut that tag off. But it's like there's too many things to do.
Right. And I just, these little details like that in my surroundings don't bother me. Like I'll pull the tag off, but leave the plastic thing on stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that that was the first thing that drew your attention too, because me too, I've been staring at it and I'm like, that is such a great detail. And it's like right front, it's right in the middle. It's like right in front of her face. And it adds so much like personality to the picture that, and like so much realness to it.
Yeah.
I love that. What do you think it says about like this person and the scene that she's in? Like what information do you think it gives to her?
I think it's interesting that it's on the backside of what she's looking at. Like she's not worried about it because she can't see it.
Yeah.
I think this is a mirror. Like we don't really know that that's a mirror.
Oh, true.
But I think it's a mirror. So she's looking at herself, but then she can't see that like imperfection on the back of the mirror. And now if I was sitting in front of something and it was looking directly at me, if I could see it, it would probably get on my nerves. Yeah. If I sat there for a long time, but she can't see that. She's not worried about it because she's worried about a lot of other stuff going on in the, she's doing lots of things.
Yeah. And you know what it also says is, you know, she's playing music. She's got the spotlight on herself. Like she's up on a stage. She's got all of this happening, but it shows to me that she's not really that concerned with the viewer, like that she's not really concerned with who's watching this show that she's putting on, because one, all of her is blocked by this mirror. And it's an imperfect mirror. If she was concerned about us, you know, that mirror wouldn't even be there. And if it was there like that, it would be more clean. She wouldn't have her boob hanging out.
Right.
Well, maybe. I mean, I guess I don't know.
I mean, she could, but it's the way it's depicted, the boob. Yeah. I just don't mind talking about it. I keep thinking about breastfeeding. Like, yeah. I'll be honest, after I had my first baby, I was quite surprised by how much my boobs were not in my shirt for a while. Like, it was surprising to me. I did not see that coming. And, like, this is just her body language makes me think it's just there because it's there. She didn't put it there for anybody. Like, you know, she's just, this is how she is at home or something. She's not doing that for somebody else.
Yeah, this isn't like she's showing her boob as like this exhibitionist, like sexual thing. It's like, yeah, my boob fell out. Sometimes it does that. When I wear a loose dress or when I'm breastfeeding, like sometimes that happens and I just kind of push it back in. But if I'm in the middle of playing the accordion, I'm going to leave it out because my hands are full.
Do you think that's like a scar?
I was looking at that too. So like right above, so her boob's coming out of kind of like her armhole of this, like, it kind of looks like it's just like a tank dress and it's coming out the armhole, but right above it, you see the edge of it. And then you also see like a little pink line. And I keep wondering, is that just like the edge of it? I'm like pointing at my own boobs as if like that matters. Is it the edge of it or is it a scar? It looks so much like a scar.
It is
the coloring of it.
And yeah, like the value in that, it's pink, but it's not a solid pink. So that really is what to me makes it look like a scar. Yeah. Even if I thought of like a heart surgery scar.
Yeah. So it could be a surgery, like a heart surgery scar. Could be like most breast surgery scars are usually under.
Yeah.
So it probably wouldn't be that. Although I guess it could kind of come up depending on. Yeah.
To me, it looks like it's going behind the strap of her shirt, but not necessarily. It might end right at that strap for the accordion, but it doesn't look like it's going behind the accordion to me.
Yeah. So what do you, like, if you were to just decide, is it a scar or is it not? What would you decide?
It's a scar. It's a scar.
Okay. And what do you think that like adds to the meaning of the picture?
I mean, it's interesting to me that we jumped from the imperfection on the back of the mirror to that. Like,
Yeah.
it adds to that human quality. Like, it's not a realistic painting, but there's so many realistic elements to it.
So it's kind of, yeah, it's showing her humanity.
Yeah.
And her, I guess, her impermanence, and then like the impermanence of humanity. Well, I guess humanity as a whole is more permanent, but like the impermanence of like a single human. But even humanity as a whole is impermanent. Eventually we won't exist.
Just makes me think she's so doing her thing, and it's about her, like, not about like, this is her moment for her.
Yeah, like she's so lost in her art and in her in herself. It makes me think of like me as like a middle school student, like in my room, like drawing my pictures, writing my poems, listening to my music, like just completely existing in my own creativity and my own like self, where like no one else and no one matters but me in that moment. Like I'm alone and I can be fully me. And because like her composition book there makes me think like she's writing songs or poems that then now she's practicing her performance of. Like it's so like intimate and alone.
There's a lot of things in this that make me think of middle school for myself.
Yeah.
Because of my age, like the butterfly clips and the braided bracelets and that choker.
Yeah. But like the rainbow high top, even the high tops in general they have like the Velcro strap.
Yeah, but those rainbow laces, I still wear those. So
yeah, I would too. But then even the composition notebook, like if you look at the pen, it almost looks like a Lisa Frank pen. Like one of those like really like colored
pencils, one of those pens where you slide down the top of it and change the color.
Yeah. Such middle school vibes.
But she doesn't look young in the face to me.
Right. Yeah, and she's got this like.
I mean, and these are not
substantial
young person's breasts. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so it's like she maybe is an adult person who is allowing herself the joys of art and creativity from her youth.
But you and I are placing a significance of youth on all those things because of when we might have had butterfly clips in our hair, like maybe there's nothing to say that an adult can't just be part of their adulthood now either.
True. That is true. I do actually have butterfly clips that I do wear occasionally. And I do actually have colorful pens, and that's true. That is true. And it goes to like the expectation of like things you are allowed to do when you're young and things you're allowed to do when you're older.
Yeah.
Made up rules. I'm
really bothered by the floor.
What's bothering you?
Like it bothers me visually. Mm-hmm. It's so raw. Like, let me explain that, because the whole thing is raw. Like, there's a lot going on, with her boob hanging out, and just there's a raw imperfection kind of quality to everything, but that floor is just like, it's a hard edge there, and that where that like horizon line is kind of in the back. It's an unfinished floor.
Yeah, it's like it looks like plywood, not plywood, because it has grain.
Yeah.
And it flattens I guess the whole thing is pretty flat, but there is like some light and shading and some modeling on the figure and things, but like the whole thing is pretty flat, but it does have some depth and dimension. But the floor like really flattens the whole space with that, because it doesn't recede into the background. It's like straight up and down the grain is. It looks like it's almost a collage of like a wood grain scrapbook paper or something.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I was going to let you finish, and then I was going to say scrapbook paper, because there's a lot of really big chunks of color and shapes, and then there's a bunch of little fine details. But
Mm-hmm.
of the big shapes and colors, that floor doesn't even look painted. It looks like it was attached, and then everything else was painted. It looks like it's the most realistic part of it to me.
Well, now I'm wondering if this is mixed media. I'm going to see if I can find that answer really quick without making this.
The mirror has some collage qualities to me, but you know what I mean? Doesn't like the back of it kind of look like maybe even that sticker wasn't painted? Maybe.
Yeah.
It has some collage qualities, but that floor for real.
It doesn't say what the media is on this.
It even if it was mixed media or collage, like that's not why it's bothering me. It's bothering me just because it's it's almost like an eyesore in this room. Everything else is kind of nice. I mean, it's not perfect, but like she's got nice shoes. Her dress is nice. There's a nice cactus back there.
Yeah.
And then there's that floor.
Yeah. Yeah, because I keep thinking of it like as this like cozy space that she's in. But then that floor, like if I were to be in a room with a floor that looked like that, I can imagine, it would like maybe be splintery. It would be like creaky. Harsh. Yeah, it would not, there's no softness to it.
Right.
But there's no softness anywhere except for her. Like she is so soft and like, but then we've got this hard light. We've got spiky cactus. We've got this hard floor, the mirror, assuming it's a mirror, like that's a hard surface. Like everything is hard.
And everything she's doing looks hard too.
Yeah. She's on that stool. Like that stool does not, it's not like a padded stool.
But she looks soft.
Yeah.
But everything else looks hard. Wow. That's kind of important, I think, because.
Yeah. What meaning are you?
I mean,
working with
everything is. What did you say the title was? I know you don't get
One Woman Show.
I'm reading into that. There's so much going on around her, and there's a lot of harsh, hard things around her. But she's so soft and like I don't want to say cuddly, but if I took everything else out of it and just looked at her, took all these little things out of there, even the butterfly clips, like it makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. She does. She looks like one of those people like you could just like snuggle up against and like feel super like comfortable.
And like if we talk long enough, we're going to get to something very emotional and we're both going to tear up.
Yeah. That's the goal. That's always my goal is if somebody cries, that means I've succeeded. So keep going.
I don't know what the dream, like in the opposite corners, there's the dream catcher and then an incense burner. But it's not lit because there's no smoke.
Yeah, but if you look at it, it does have a little red tip. The incense does. But you're right, there is no smoke, but it does have like a little red, very red, like a little red dot. So could potentially be lit.
It's so close to me. Like that incense thing is so close to me as I'm looking at it. It makes me feel awkward.
Yeah, it is a weird placement. But I think that's a cool observation that you made that the dream catcher in one end and the incense in the other, like there are
opposite.
Yeah, and they're like related and somehow, they're both like, I guess we could call them like spiritual symbols or like culturally significant, ritualistic type of things.
There's something about, and I hadn't quite figured it out yet, to these curves of the cactus and the curve of the incense on the same side. And there's something about all the curves are kind of, they're like relational.
Yeah.
Her knee, her shoulder, the way her head is all the way over. Even this bottom of the mirror, the stand behind it.
Yeah.
But like the cactus and the incense burner, these are two real significant curves at the top and the bottom, like providing some balance over there. But then I get the balance right there, but there's like with that lamp on the other side, there's no balance between the two sides, except for the fact that there's something in both places.
Well, I do feel like if we were to look at this without the cactus and without the lamp, like this would there might be a situation where our eye doesn't flow right, like flows off the painting. And I think both of those provide like an anchor to like bring you back in. So if you follow the like line up the cactus, it brings you to her head. If you follow the lamp up, it brings you up to the light, which then brings you back to her. So like the compositionally, this would be, if it didn't have a boob hanging out, this would be a great one to show students about how artists can like move your eye through a painting with the composition. Because now that you mentioned it, like I can kind of keep following lines, like the line of her head. You keep going, and like it goes to the inside of her arm, which then goes up like to the accordion, which then flows back up and then interrupt. Like it's all just like.
And the lines of the mirror too are making you go up to her. But I think what makes us want to keep looking at it instead of moving on to the next painting. Like this is what I think is significant. If I know I know you and I are focusing on this one, but like, as a viewer, you're going to linger on this one because there's some parts of it that are just making you, your brain is looking for like it to make sense. Like I'm looking for there to be something balanced better with that cactus on the other side and it's not there. So then I'm like, I have to keep looking at it till I figure out what am I supposed to get to. And that I think is part of how artists use lines to make our eyes go where they want our eyes to go.
To me, though, the cactus is there to point to her face. And like the light points to her face, the mirror points to her face. Like there's so much. And we haven't talked about her face yet, but I have spent a lot of time looking at her face. And her face is very confusing to me. For those listening, like if you haven't looked at it yet, which hopefully you have by this point, but her face is not realistically depicted.
No,
it's got the right kind of proportions-ish, but like her eye looks like a scar. Her eyebrows look like scars. Like her nose is kind of red and misshapen. Things are a little bit like wonkily is not a word, but like wonkily placed on her face. Like they're not in like, like if we were to look at it, like one eye is lower than the other.
The proportion is.
Yeah, it's confusing. And then we maybe can see part of her lips. There's like a little bit of a pink line like above the mirror. But if that was her mouth, like that doesn't make sense, like how a mouth would go that way. And so, yeah, her face
and I know, and I
is
keep
really
thinking
confusing.
maybe she's singing, but like it still doesn't make sense.
Yeah, maybe.
If she's singing, then that's like cartoonish.
Yeah. Yeah, like it would be like a singing, but like a cartoony frown singing. Like it would be downturned. What's interesting too is like the line of that light.
Yeah,
like the one eye is a little bit more realistic, whereas the other eye looks like a slit, almost like a scar with like a slit. But the other one is a little bit more realistic, and that's the one that the light kind of cuts through. That's interesting to me too.
Like there's just. I don't get a sense of. Let me back up and say I feel like warm and fuzzy about her until I get honed in on her face, and then the face is kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah,
because there's like no joy there.
Yeah.
But why? Because to me, I'm like, what's there not to be joyful about? You have rainbow shoelaces, but then there's something else going on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of joy in all these other objects until that face has some pain, I think.
Yeah, it does. There's like, and maybe, okay, if I even pull to my example of like middle school me in my room with all my art stuff and my music, and I used to play piano, and like I love, like all of this is like very much like things I would be doing. I did not have big boobs in middle school, but other than that's it. Like, and I would have loved some incense. I don't think I had any, but I'm surely I had candles. But like, yes, that would have brought me some peace and some joy. But then if you look like big picture, like into my brain at the time, like I was pretty sad. Like in middle school, there was some like really deep sadness going on. So, but those are some things that I knew that did like bring me joy and that did bring me some peace. So like it can be both. Like you can be in pain and also find joy through art and music and writing and things.
It's almost like the whole thing after what you said, it's like there's a lot of coping mechanisms in there, from that perspective. If you look at it from that perspective, it bothers me that I don't know what it is that's making her make that face. There's nothing in here that where I don't know if I'm going to be able to figure that out based on what's in the image.
Yeah, like that, it's information that we can't know, and we can't and that is making us uncomfortable because and that is a natural human thing. We are trying to find certainty, and we are trying to find meaning, and like it's really hard to find there. Like I'm like, the best thing I can think of is like maybe she was in some sort of and this kind of calls to the scar too, but like she was in some sort of accident, or like her face was burned, or like, like some sort of traumatic event that like hurt her face. Like, it feels something like that, feels like something bad happened to her.
That goes back to what I was saying too about our brains are looking for certain things. Like we're looking for some structure, some balance, some repetition, patterns, and answers, and we're not getting them.
Yeah.
And we're not going to get them. And that's the thing about art.
Yeah.
You have to, and I know I'm going to walk away from this and not know. And like, I'm going to have to be able to be comfortable in that ambiguity,
Yeah. That's what's so powerful about it though. And that's what I love so much about it is that, we are striving so much for certainty, and our education systems are built around certainty. Like, this is the thing you have to learn and memorize and regurgitate for a test. And that it's showing us this is the right answer and this is the wrong answer. This is the truth and this is not the truth. But like, life is not like that. So when we become adults and we're realizing like, oh, it's not black and white anymore, everything is gray and we don't know what's up. Like, we can practice that experience of not knowing in situations like this, when we're slowing down and looking at something and like not relying on, the artist wrote an essay that described exactly what she was thinking when she made this. Like, we don't have that. And so it's like, it's good practice for us, I think.
And this is like kind of gets to some of the heart of why why I'm just so passionate does not even feel like strong enough word. That's the way I feel about arts integration, because I'm looking for answers and there aren't any. So I've got to pull up my own background knowledge and start trying to make inferences, but then I have to also understand that, like we said about aging her, I put that age and time frame on the items that I saw in there because of my background knowledge. And being able to understand all that is a real life skill that people desperately need. Like, it doesn't matter if you can read a paragraph and pull out, justify your answers if you can't then like go apply that somehow. And I think every subject in school should be looking at artwork and having conversations like this until they get to how it applies to something else in life.
Yeah. So I know arts integration is your sort of main thing that you like to teach about and talk about. Like, how did that come up in your life, and when did you start really being passionate about it? And also for those people who are listening, because my audience has expanded a little bit beyond just art teachers now. And so maybe people don't know what that means. Can you define what that is for people too?
Yes. So arts integration is an approach to teaching. I can tell you what the Kennedy Center defines it exactly. It's an approach to teaching in which students construct and demonstrate understanding through an art form. Students engage in a creative process which connects an art form and another subject area and meets evolving objectives in both. That was the long version. The short version is you using an art form and other content, other subject matter, other, we would say, standards, alongside each other equitably. So you're not using the art in service of the math. I know there's songs that can like help you memorize your multiplication tables. That's like using the music to get to the math. Art integration is doing them both together so that students are not just learning math, but they're also learning the art form. Yeah. So they come away they're literate about the art form and can maybe not be actual musician. Maybe they can't play, but they understand it, can talk about it, and apply it to other situations. And so that makes the math and whatever other stuff you're learning, you learn that in a stronger way. Maybe that wasn't the short version. That was long. That was longer. But I tried
that
to,
one was great because
explain
the
it.
first one, it was like when I'm being read to, my brain just is like, oh, stop thinking, stop
There's
listening.
I know. There's such a misconception about arts integration just being like, oh, well, if you just have something artsy to go with whatever else you're doing,
Here's your coloring sheet
That's
about
not
World
it.
War II or whatever, you know, it's
have
not the
to
same
be
thing.
teaching the art vocabulary and the analysis of art and the immersion in art and like art understandings, and that has to happen too.
Yeah, and that's really how our world, like once you're out of school,
Yeah.
that's how the world is. It's not segmented anymore. It's not today I'm going to think about social studies. It's like, you know, things are so integrated in our lives. And then we're doing a lot of people, I think it does a lot of students a disservice by segmenting things like that, because it puts them in the silo that doesn't make sense in the real world. And I was talking with somebody recently, and she was like talking about the education system now and how, like, when we were kids, we needed to memorize things because we didn't have the internet. We couldn't Google, you know, something. So we had to have a good knowledge and we had to have some things memorized. But now, like, why are we teaching kids facts that they then have to memorize and regurgitate when they can look up anything they want on the internet? Like, what we need to be focused on is like understand the concepts, understanding the bigger picture, how things relate together, like how things work on a larger scale. And then if they need to know like mitosis versus, you know, some other random science word, they can just Google what that is. They're like, oh, I know in general how a cell works. I don't remember the words, but I can always find the words. But if I need my pocket and find them.
If I need to do something, I can look that up and then go apply it. It doesn't matter if I can spit it out to you.
Yeah.
I got when I did my student. So I used to teach I went to college to be an elementary education educator, and when I did my student teaching, I went to a school that was arts integrated and partnered with Mississippi Whole Schools. So like my entire career, all the way back to college, I just didn't know any other way of teaching. And I didn't know that wasn't the norm until I went from the school that I was at to another school. And I was like, wow, it's inequitable when there's one school teaching that way and across the board and another school that's not. So that's kind of, I mean, it's like ingrained in me from the beginning.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I love it. And now let's go back to the painting, and we got to arts integration from it. How are you seeing arts integration and the importance of it and all that in this artwork?
I mean, as far as reading this like a text and and then, you know, understanding that we're making inferences, we're making judgments, but the evidence is not there for some of the judgments we're trying to make. I can't prove some of the things I've said to you. I can say that this is what I think's happening, but I think when we read, we have to, like, that's part of comprehension. So I definitely see that connection. And also I'm seeing all kinds of lines and angles in here that is lots of geometry.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point and it's something that I think one of my goals for this podcast is to help people understand that looking at and talking about and getting meaning from and personal connection to art is a lot easier than you think it's going to be. And you already have the skills that you need to do it. And that is the way you described it, as like reading it like a text, that's what it is. We are reading the artwork through what we see. I don't ever talk about it like that, but that is what we're doing.
Yeah, I talk about reading artwork as a text a lot.
Yeah.
Because I do it a lot, you know, all day, every day. I think too, what you said just made me think about how people will look at a picture and they'll think that's weird, or that's nice, or I wish I could paint that, but I can't do it. And it's like, art is not supposed to be a thing that you can go, that's art and that's not art. it's supposed to make you ask questions. I have a friend that's a modern dancer, and she choreographs, and we go to her performances where she has all these dancers, and my mom will walk away with 1,000 questions, and I'm like, I don't have the answers. There's no we don't know the answers, like, but that you're asking questions is the point, I think, for that. And then translates that to just like those real world skills, like being comfortable, being uncomfortable, and not having all the answers immediately and having to think through things. I kind of got sidetracked there, but I didn't mean to.
No, it's great. No, that's what it's all about. I love that's what, go back and listen to any episode. There's lots of sidetracked.
No one is supposed to look at this and have all the answers.
Yeah. Your story about the dance, which I love that story, and I love watching dance, but it reminds me of me watching a movie with my husband who, like, I am not good at watching movies, I would say, is because I am constantly trying to construct meaning out of every scene and I want to fully understand everything about the world. And I have like questions logistically. I'm like, if this is fantasy, then how did they do this? And, so I'm off and like still thinking about something from 10 minutes ago. And so I'm constantly having to pause the movie, and it drives my husband crazy. And he's like, just watch it and let it unfold.
That too. I want to rewind and like, catch that one thing. Yeah.
No, I can't just watch it and let it unfold. Like the answers are, and often I'll pause it, ask him a question, because he often has already seen something before me, because he can also watch something multiple times, which I can't do. And I'll ask him a question, and I'm like, what's going on here? And then he'll tell me, and then I'll click unpause, and it literally, like, the answer is given to me like 5 seconds later by the show. I'm like, oh, I need to stop doing that. But yeah, like I think that's why I like art. It just stays still. It doesn't move fast for me, so I can just sit there and like think about it all day. Keep coming up with my own meanings without having to, I don't know, get another meaning 5 seconds later. But yeah, I do find myself very uncomfortable in those situations because I want to fully understand everything.
That's what makes learning through the arts it's a barrier. It's a barrier to people in their willingness to allow themselves to kind of get lost in the painting too. I think it's because they just want the answers, and they aren't there. They're not always, and they don't always come immediately. Yeah,
it's like you see people at museums, and I'm guilty of this myself too. It's like, but they'll go to artwork and they'll look at the title, they'll read the caption, they'll move on, and it's like, and then when there is no caption, when it's only the title, or even if the title's like untitled, it's like, ooh, I'm going to have to like do something here. I don't have to think about this. I don't want to do that. So they just kind of move on. And I love to challenge people to just like sit for like 20 minutes in front of one artwork and just see what happens. And I guarantee at the end of 20 minutes, you'll want to spend more. Like there's always more to find that you didn't realize was there. And things you learn about yourself too, that you didn't necessarily realize.
I got lost just kind of staring at the painting again there. I'm noticing how there's a lot of green on my left as I'm looking at it. And there's not green, like there's a little bit of green in the shoelaces, but there's not as much. Yeah. That's what I talk about. My brain must really be craving balance right now. Like I'm looking for it and I am not getting it at all.
Yeah,
every time I look for it in a different element, I don't find it. I'm like, okay, I didn't see it in the lines. Let me see if I can find it in the color. And it's not happening. Then I'm noticing how unbalanced it is.
There should be some green on the right. You're right. Like, it may at least make her fingernail polish green, or like the part of the dream catcher green or something. Yeah. I think it's good that the incense burner is pink. That allows us to create a little bit of balance there. But
and the there's one pink butterfly on that side and a pink bracelet. Because her fingernails are pink on the other side in that tambourine.
Yeah.
And I just have to say that I really think this artist did an amazing job on those shoes.
Yeah.
Like, they look fantastic.
Great shoe drawing, for sure.
Yeah.
What I keep being drawn to is her position.
Yeah. We haven't even talked about that.
It's so distorted and contorted and confusing, because like if you look at her arms, so she's got one arm playing like the keys part of the accordion, but if you follow the other arm, it looks like it goes underneath her leg.
Under her thigh. Yeah.
To the other side of the accordion. And if you think about how an accordion is played, which is, you bring it together in parts. So like she's having to like move her whole leg when she needs to do that. And that's the same leg that is playing the tambourine. It's so confusing. It's like it's allowing her, she's allowing herself to, like, she's so lost in it that like she can be in this really uncomfortable position and like be okay with it.
And I don't think that's where I don't think, we said we couldn't tell what the source of the pain was, if there's pain in her face. And I don't think that's it.
No.
It took me forever to figure out what was going on with the stool too, because like, is that her bottom? Is she sitting on the stool? Because for one second I thought she was kneeling on it. And then I was like, no, because I think her knees are on the other side of the mirror.
Okay. I'm going to figure this out. So if she's sitting, that makes if she was sitting, that makes more sense. With how
so out of proportion.
She can get her hand under her leg like that.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's interesting that her arm goes under the thigh of the same leg that has the tambourine hanging from the foot.
Yeah. So it like every movement she makes is going to cause a noise, an additional noise.
And then she's balanced by whatever if it's her bottom or the thing on the stool and the other foot.
I keep trying to like see if I can put myself into this position. I'm like, it's not, because she's facing forward. She's got, no, I can't do that. Oh, wait, you know what? I see something. There's a line. I don't know if you can see my mouse.
I see
right here. So that maybe is her leg. So maybe it shows that she is sitting, and then this is her thigh.
And then how many? But then then how many like joints are there in that leg?
And her knee is in it like a. No, that's not going to work.
I can't tell which leg. I don't. Other than the shoes, which I can tell which one is the right and left shoe. I can't tell really. So her one leg is crossed over the other leg.
Yeah,
it's very distorted.
It's confusing.
And the way her boob is way over here when all the rest of her body is going this way. Her boob is not. It's going like the opposite direction.
It's got a life of its own.
Been there, yeah.
That's true. Especially after you've had babies.
And then there's there is some balance actually between the knee and the boob, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah,
and I feel like the painting is not supposed to be about the boob. Totally, it's there. It's like part of it, but it's not. It's like it's one detail, but it's not about the fact that her boob is hanging out.
Okay, so I've got one thing that is really got me thinking, and we've talked a little bit about it, but not really, is the fact that there is a mirror there, and the fact that she's looking at it. So if it was indeed like my interpretation of maybe her getting lost in her art, I don't know that like watching herself in a mirror would necessarily be something that she would do. Like, why is she looking in a mirror?
What if it's not a mirror? I mean, everything about the back of it tells me it's a mirror, but we can't see the front of it.
Yeah.
And I also am not sure about why that lamp is doing what it's doing. And so then part of me is like, is she on a stage? Because that looks like that floor. I mean, it's not a fancy stage, but it could be like a stage in a festival, or like a dumpy little country bar, or I don't know. But then like, if that's a mirror, why would there be a mirror there? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going back to
is it spoken word like that? If I thought that she was doing spoken word with the addition of the instruments to kind of add to the word, like it almost would make more sense. But then I don't think she's in a public place because her boob is hanging out. There's too many questions. There's so many questions.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so, and I don't typically spend a lot of time in the title, but I think one woman show it kind of makes me think, okay, so she is putting on a show. She's the one, she's playing all the instruments. Makes me think of like Dick Van Dyke and
And
she's putting on the show. And then, if we're timing the butterfly clips right, when did people wear butterfly clips? Like the early 2000s? So that would be like, they didn't have like the phones and video recorders in their pocket at all times. So like she couldn't, like my daughter, if she was going to put on a one-woman show in her room, would just set up her phone and like record herself so that she could watch it. So maybe just the mirror is she's performing a show for herself.
Yeah, she's the performer and the audience.
Yeah, she wants to see herself do this show, and the only way she can do that is with the mirror because she doesn't have the like technology otherwise.
I definitely think she's looking at the mirror and not at this.
Yeah. Oh, it's fascinating.
It is. Is the accordion? I don't know if it's just my screen or not, but is there some blue in there in the accordion, or is it white?
Looks to me just like a washed out black, like a charcoal gray, or just like black paint that you can see the canvas through or something.
Yeah,
like Payne's gray maybe. So
it's not like
I don't see blue.
White, but yeah.
Oh, and the white part. Nah, I don't see even blue there either. Oh,
there's one more thing that I find weird. Like between her, I think that's her bottom on the stool and her legs. There's like a white triangle above the composition book. There's another. It's almost a triangle on the other side of that mirror, and I just feel so. I know the wall is there, and it's the light because there's two different. You can see the light in the light from the lamp and the shadow. It just looks so empty right there.
Yeah.
To me. But the other parts of the white wall don't look empty, but down at the bottom it looks empty, and that catches my eye a lot. I don't know why.
Yeah, I think it just adds to that like uneasiness of that wood grain floor too. That it's like if it were empty, like if it were the wall, we would see some degree of perspective. Although I guess we can see that in the composition book. But yeah,
there's a lot of depth here. Like there's a lot to be said about the way the space is used, especially down at the bottom.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting too, like the whole space is filled up, and it's almost like, if she's contorted herself to fit into this space. Yeah. Like if she were to stand up, she would be way taller than this.
And she would knock canvas. All that. Yeah, she would knock it all over. And like, it's like there's not enough room for her there in the midst of all that stuff. But there she is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And she would be way taller than that mirror.
Yeah.
So maybe she is having to crunch down like that so that she can see herself in the mirror.
Yeah. Almost the whole painting is her.
Yeah.
There's so much other stuff, but like her figure takes up a lot of room.
Yeah, it fills up the whole space. Okay. All right. Well, we've been talking for like roughly an hour, which is when I usually cut us off. Is there anything left on here that is like really feels unsaid or that you want to mention before we wrap it up?
No, if we had like another hour, I would want to think about how I am seeing a lot of triangles all of a sudden, but I have to think on that some more.
Yeah.
Like what that means or what that does to the image.
Yeah. Now I'm like, if you look for all the triangles, there are tons. There's lots of, and I think it's just like all the diagonal lines and all the curved lines give it a lot of movement and a lot of energy. Yeah. That is like, it's not a standstill thing. Like there's so much going on.
Right.
Movement wise.
It was so much fun talking that through with you.
Indeed. All right. Well, thank you so much. Now, before we stop, again, y'all can see this artwork on the show notes. This is One Woman Show by Celeste Rapone. I think the date, what was the date? It was on this slide. 2019. So just very recently. Y'all can see that on the show notes. And then how can people find you online?
www.partyintheartroom.com. And I'm on all the social media with Party in the Art Room or Amanda Koonlaba.
And you mentioned, not in the interview, but in another thing, that you have some like professional development things people can engage.
Yes, on my website, PD, like arts integration, and I do a lot of just visual art education stuff, but all of my visual art stuff has embedded other content. So I have arts integration and professional development where I can walk you through how to talk about art, make art, and make it relevant to your subject, not just for visual arts teachers. So that's all on my website. You can connect with me for all of that. Did I mention that I have, was it Pop PD? Is that what you're thinking of?
That was a thing that I'm thinking of, yeah.
Yeah, I told you I didn't reread what I wrote. Pop PD is a website where some of my professional development is recorded so that you could do it on your own and not have to have me like in the room.
Awesome. We'll link to all of that in the show notes for everyone. So thank you again, Amanda. This was really fun.
It was so much fun. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you so much for listening to Art and Self. And if you loved what you heard and you want to be a part of these exciting conversations about art, I would love to invite you to join the Art Connection Circle. In the Art Connection Circle, we get together in an intimate small group and have deep conversations about works of art centered around our own self-development, our own personal experience, and what we bring to the conversation, just like we do in these art conversations on the podcast. You can find more information out about this program at artandself.com/circle, or you can click the link in the show notes. You can also find links to the artworks that we discussed over on the show notes, and then you can also find me on Instagram and on Facebook. Just search for Cindy Ingram Art and Self. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.